Welcome everyone to Healing by Design. Class today is on lymphoma and lymphedema, which would include Hodgkin's lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We're going to kind of briefly hit on all of that. Does anybody, know anybody who's had lymphoma or lymphedema or any of those types of issues? Okay. Nobody else? Okay, I knew a gal. I'll tell you her testimonial in a minute. It just hit me. It's a really good story, actually. But I'll start with prayer, as always. So, Father, we so thank you for this time. We thank you that you're the creator of all things. You're a perfect creator. You're a perfect designer. Father, we ask for revelation and wisdom on the human body and how to restore it. We know it's not the imperfection of your design that's why we're sick. It's our going astray and not walking in the ways in which you've called us to live and the way you designed us to live on this earth, Lord. So we're sorry for what we've done, Lord. We ask that you would restore us, that you would heal us, that you would redeem us. We know that's the nature of who you are. Through your miracles you do that, but also through the miracle of people choosing to heal their bodies through how you designed us to live, through cleansing and through food and through nutrition and minerals and sunshine and just all the amazing things you gave us on this earth. So we're so thankful for all of those things. And more than anything, we're thankful for Jesus. We're thankful that we have a Redeemer and that we have a way to be with you for eternity in spite of our sin. So just ask for wisdom today, Lord, as you speak through us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so let me start with a testimonial. I mean, why not? It popped into my spirit. I think I'll share it. I worked with a gal in Las Vegas. She was a master herbalist, and I actually learned a lot from her. And we still kind of work with this company. And her story is this. She has 8 children. She was pregnant with her 8th child. So she'd already had 7 children. She was pregnant with her 8th child. She was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She had, whatever you call them, I was going to call them welts, but that wouldn't be the word, knobs, nodules that were forming in her lymphatic system that were the size of golf balls, some were the size of tennis balls, all over her body in different areas of her lymphatic system. Of course, the doctors told her chemotherapy, radiation, told her that was the only way. Told her this, no matter what she does, she will lose her baby. That's what the doctors told her. And she did not believe that. She was actually already into natural health a little bit because her mom had been into herbs and healing with herbs. So she'd already kind of had that in her a little bit, although that wasn't like her main focus or anything. Well, it's a neat story. It's kind of a funny story, too, because she goes, I didn't know anything about herbalism, but I knew that it could help and I knew that it could work. And so what she did is she took every herb you could possibly think of. And when she tells the story, it's just hilarious. And she went and bought all these herbs and just stuck them in water and boiled them and made this tea. But it wasn't like a tea. She said, I was drinking like this thick, nasty syrup. And I didn't even know what the herbs were or what they did, but I just heard that this was good for this and this was good for this. I just mixed them all together, started drinking this stuff. Well, within a month, all of her nodules started to go down. Within a few months, her body went back to normal. Her lymph got cleaned out. She had a healthy baby. And now she's a master herbalist. Now she teaches people the truth about herbs can heal the body and you don't have to do chemotherapy and radiation and all those poison therapies out there. Those are not in alignment with God's design. That's not a system created by God. That's a system created by man. And so it's just a neat story. It's a neat story. I mean, not only that baby that she was having, but she was the mother to 7 children. If she would have chosen chemotherapy and radiation, she might not be here today. Wow. So, these are major decisions that we have to make in our life, So let's start. I gave you this really neat handout called the lymphatic system. Pretty fancy title. Lymphatic system. And I just wanted to start with an understanding of the lymphatic system so that you understand how important it is. Because it's one of the, if not the most It is very arguably the most important system in the human body. Now, I've always said many times the life of all flesh is in the blood, Leviticus 17:14. So the blood is how God designed us to sustain life. But without the lymphatic system, it is impossible for you to live. Impossible. The lymph is twice as long as the blood, and the job of the lymph is to keep the blood clean. So if you don't have lymph cleansing your blood, you wouldn't make it more than a couple hours. You would have autotoxicity and you would just die. And so the lymph is crucial to keeping the body healthy, to keeping the blood healthy, to keeping us healthy. And it's a system it's kind of forgotten. You don't hear about it in America. You don't hear about it in Western medicine. You don't hear about it in any mainstream discussions on health. You don't even hear a lot about it in the natural health field. We really only think or hear anything about it if somebody is diagnosed with lymphedema or Hodgkin's lymphoma or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's the only time you hear about it. And by then, you have cancer in your lymphatic system. I mean, women get breast cancer, and you don't even hear doctors talking about the lymphatic system. That's what breast tissue is. It's lymph. I can confidently say that there would be no breast cancer if we understood the lymphatic system and how to take care of it and keep it clean. It would be impossible to have breast cancer. Yet it's one of the biggest issues in our culture today. It's one of the biggest fears among women. It's one of the biggest things. We raise billions and billions and billions of dollars that we just throw away to the pharmaceutical industry and pad the pockets of these people pretending like they're trying to come up with a cure. So the lymphatic system is crucial to understand. If you want to have long-term good health and you want to not fear sickness and disease, I don't care if your mom had XYZ or everybody in your family had lymphoma, it doesn't matter. It's your choices, your decisions, your opportunity to align with how God designed you to cleanse this body, this holy temple that He gave us, and not have to fear those things. But we live in fear because our bodies are so sick and they're so unhealthy. So let's talk about the lymphatic system because it's really important to understand it. And I'm kind of going to go through this lymphatic system handout to a degree just because it's so well done. There's so much to remember. I certainly can't remember it all. And so it kind of helps trigger me. The way this person describes it who wrote this article is that it's designed to clean up the mess made by virtually every other system of the body. Okay, so the kidneys filter some stuff, the liver filters some stuff, but the biggest filter in the entire body is the lymphatic system. It's over 100,000 miles long in the human body. 100,000 miles long. And when people get sick, they can't understand, why they're sick. It's a manifestation of this system being congested and clogged up for a lot of people. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to unclog 100,000+ miles of blocked up highway, right? I mean, you get a one lane out on the Los Angeles freeway, and you have a lot of problems for a lot of hours, and so people get their lymph clogged up, and it creates a lot of problems. So we'll talk about that. But talks about regarded as the lesser system of the circulatory system. So we talk a lot about the blood and the circulatory system, which is crucial. It is crucial for all life, but it's impossible for that system to stay healthy without the lymph. In many other cultures, in many other systems of medicine, it's the most important system. In Ayurvedic medicine, if you went to somebody in India who studied Ayurvedic medicine, which is something that's been around for 5,000 years, he would work first on your lymphatic system. It didn't matter. It wouldn't matter what you have. It wouldn't matter if you have issues with your menstrual cycle or you're diagnosed with leukemia. It doesn't matter. They understand that without the lymphatic system, you can't be healthy. And so it's the first system they focus on. In all of Eastern medicine, in Chinese medicine, in Ayurvedic medicine, it's a crucially important system for this reason. It says, poor lymph health underlies a host of conditions from cellulite to cancer. So cancer being the one thing that is probably the biggest fear among us, if we were just to be honest with ourselves. related to sickness, especially if somebody in our family had it. You know, we feel like we're this hopeless victim that can't overcome these things, but that's far from the truth. But you know, that other C word that women hate, cellulite, right? That's also a congested lymphatic system. You know, these people got all these like jiggle machines and all this stuff to get rid of the cellulite. Well, those things actually kind of work because it moves lymph. It's lymph fluid, the retention of lymph fluid that causes that, you know, that baggy skin or that cellulite or that water weight to hold on to, the edema, the swelling, all of that. So you don't think much about the lymphatic system until something goes wrong, and that's just so true. That's kind of true with our bodies. Like, do we realize that we have bodies until something goes wrong? Like, we don't even realize we have a body until, because we take it all for granted. We take God for granted, we take His creation for granted, we take our bodies for granted until something goes wrong. And then when something goes wrong, we go, God, what happened? What happened? I love you so much. How could this happen? Right? So we're so far removed from the Garden of Eden. We're so far removed on how God designed us to live in this world. So when something goes wrong, it's a wake-up call to most people, and then we have to make a decision. You know, how to restore our health? You know, do we go to the mainstream doctors and kind of do what they recommend, or do we try the natural approach? And that's a real struggle for a lot of people to decide which way to go, or a little bit of both, or whatever. And I understand that is a tough decision for a lot of people. All right, so the lymph is only powered by movement and breathing. Do you know all those weird people out there and those weird religions and New Age people that focus on breathing? Breathe in now. Breathe out. Why don't Christians do that? Like, what is wrong with us? Like, pneuma, spirit, breath of life. You know, I'm joking with you a little bit, but it is true that the enemy, the devil, has done such a good job at making everything that seems good and important for health in the human body seem like some weird thing that you don't even want to touch with a 50-foot pole. It's total deception. We should be learning how to breathe properly. We should be outside in fresh air taking deep breaths. We should be doing movement type of exercises like Pilates. My wife's a Pilates instructor. You want to move your lymph? Do Pilates. I hadn't done a lot of Pilates before. I did a 1-hour session with her. About every 10 minutes I said, honey, sorry, I got to take a break. I got to pee. About every 10 to 15 minutes while I was doing Pilates. Why? Because it moves your lymph. Really? You want to get waste out of your body, move your body. And so pneuma, breath, wind, breathing, that is crucial for moving lymph. We're shallow breathers. We don't breathe deep into our diaphragms. And the other way it moves is movement. So, you know, standard American diet, eat what you want, it doesn't matter, just be happy, live free. Sedentary lifestyles, we go to work, we work desk jobs, lucky if we find 30 minutes to exercise. And again, we wonder why we're sick. We wonder why so many people are in the situation that they're in today. So you have to move and you have to breathe for that lymph to start working right. So if you can put all the pieces of the puzzle together, you won't have these health conditions. Doesn't matter what the doctor tells you. Doesn't matter the diagnosis. You know, these things the doctors say, I'm not saying there's not some truth in what they say here and there, but it's very minimal. Most of it's not true. I could tell you 100 stories. I had a gal just call me Friday who the doctor told her she had to take thyroid medication the rest of her life. Young girl, teenage girl, there's nothing she could do. She'd be on this medication the rest of her life. Her mom calls me crying because she went to the doctor and all her thyroid tests came back perfectly normal. She's off her medication and she feels amazing. How long did it take? Less than a month. And they want you to be on a drug the rest of your life. So most of what they're teaching and telling people out there is only what they're taught in school, which is mostly false. I know that's hard for a lot of people to believe. It was hard for me to believe when I first heard it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's just, you go to the doctor, you take a pill, you get better, life is good. Yeah, it's far from the truth. I wish it was that simple. All right, so the lymphatic system. The lymph serves every cell of the human body. So the way the cells work in the body is they take in nutrients and they eliminate waste. Where does that waste go? It goes into the lymph. So your whole body is made up of cells. So every cell that you have that's spitting out toxins and waste has to go in this lymphatic system and somehow be eliminated, either via sweat, urine, or poo-poo. What do I call it? I don't know. Whatever. Just have fun with it. So that's the way you eliminate waste, right? So every cell of your body secretes waste. You eat the most perfect diet on the whole planet, you still poop. That's my joke. Bears poop. Deer poop. All they eat is grass and leaves. Those are God's foods. They're good for them, but they still poop because there's still metabolic waste to everything you put in your body. So now you start putting chemicals in your body, you start putting processed food in your body, you start putting weird things in your body, you stop exercising. Again, why do we can't wonder why we're in this situation and we're so sick today. The lymph vessels look like, and I have a sheet you can look at kind of that shows the lymphatic system, but it looks like pearls on a string. So it looks like a string with a pearl and a string and a pearl and a string and a pearl. And then there's big pockets of what are called lymph nodes. There's there's major areas of lymphatic vessels that are pooled together called nodes. But it covers your whole eye. It completely surrounds your head. It's all the way down to your toes. From the top of your head to the tips of your toes, there are lymphatic vessels. So you can link it to any disease you want. You can link it to Alzheimer's and things of the brain, and you can link it to neuropathy and things of the feet. It's the inability of the body to cleanse itself and eliminate toxins that cause every sickness and disease from head to toe. So one of the most crucial aspects of the lymphatic system, besides just eliminating toxins and waste, is it's a crucial part of your immune system. So I'm making up a number because I don't know if anybody knows for sure, but I will say that roughly 90+% of your immune system, because we all talk about the immune system and getting sick and kids getting colds and flus and kids getting earaches and people getting pneumonia and everybody's getting sick. The immune system that we're talking about is in the gut, it's the intestinal tract, and the lymph. That's it. Yeah, there's a few things produced in the liver. It's mostly gut and lymph. That is the vast majority of what we call the lymphatic system. So you have an autoimmune disease. There's a problem with your gut and your lymph. You don't take immunosuppressant drugs to suppress your immune system because it just happens to be failing. God didn't design a body that fails. The body's doing exactly what God designed it to do. It's letting you know there's a problem. Like danger, danger, red light, but we don't. We ignore the problem. We don't ignore the problem. We go to the doctor. He suppresses our immune system. We pretend like everything's better. People get worse. So white blood cell production is done in the lymphatic system. Okay, so what happens is you have bone marrow. People have heard of bone marrow cancer. That's really serious. Bone marrow and lymph are very strongly linked. So these cells are produced in the bone marrow, and the lymphatic system creates B lymphocytes through the bone marrow. And then T cells, if you've heard of killer T cells, those are produced in the thymus. So the thymus is an important part of our immune system. It's part of the lymphatic system. The bone marrow, technically, is part of the lymphatic system. The spleen. Spleen is part of your lymphatic system. What do kids get removed all the time that's part of their lymphatic system?
Tonsils.
Tonsils. What else? Adenoids. Yep. So here's what's crazy about it is these are crucial components of our immune system, and to the medical system, they're not necessary for life. Get your tonsils taken out. Get your adenoids taken out. Get your spleen taken out. Get your thymus taken out. All of those things can be removed, and you can still survive. This is what they call it in Chinese medicine. Where did I put that? I can't remember. Oh, here it is. He says, you can live without your spleen, yes, but how well? Oh, no, here's what it is. In Eastern medicine, this is tantamount to clipping a bird's wings. The bird will not die, but it will never fly high again. So that's what we do. Instead of healing our bodies and cleansing our bodies and helping God get the interference out of the way to work the way He designed the body to work, we cut out the organ, and we might survive, but we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle. People get their gallbladder out. They're still alive, but they're struggling with their health and their digestion and bowel movements and all kinds of things. And the doctors tell them, oh, you don't need to change your diet. You'll be perfectly fine. 90% of the time, those people struggle, because I know a lot of them. So lymphoma and lymphedema specifically. So lymphedema is pretty simple. Lymphedema. What's edema? Swelling. Okay? So when you're just swelling abnormally, it's kidneys and the lymphatic system, always. It's the fluid systems of the body swelling. And when you fight an infection, your lymph swells. So if your system's backed up or you got an infection, your lymph can swell. And if it becomes chronic, they might label it lymphedema. But it's just swelling of the lymphatic system. Now, lymphoma is cancer. It's cancer in the lymphatic system. And there's two types, which if you read about it, it's kind of confusing. But there's Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's. I don't know if people have heard those terms or not. You don't hear Hodgkin's much. It's 10% of people. You usually hear non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay, that's fairly common. I have that lady I told you about, that story. I have people I know personally that have been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's when cancer starts in the lymphocytes. That white blood cell, that part of the immune system that's in the lymphatic system, starts to develop cancer. And I've done whole classes on cancer before, and I've made it pretty clear that our cells are only as healthy as the fluids in which they're living. So the job of the lymph is to get waste out. So there's always waste moving through the lymph. But if that pond gets stagnant and that waste sits in pockets of the lymphatic system for months and years without moving, well, what happens when you find that old, thing of water in your backyard that you never changed out, and you suddenly run across it and there's all kinds of bugs and germs and infection and nasty stuff in it? You have to visualize that that's what's happening in our body. Because if you don't visualize the reality of the depth of the toxicity and poisons that are trapped in our body, you'll never cleanse. You'll never do the right things to unlock all that and flush all that junk out. Where do we think cancer comes from? Where do we think sickness and disease come from? It only comes from the health of our cells. And if they're bathing in waste without oxygen, they're eventually forced to turn anaerobic, where they do not live in oxygen anymore and they only live on fermented sugar. That's by God's design. We think it's like just this horrible system gone wrong. These things all happen by how God designed the human body to try to survive in the midst of a toxic poison environment inside of your body. The body's not designed to fail. That's how our system looks at it. You're getting older. If you got a knee or a shoulder ache and you're over 50, well, that's just how it is, man. You're getting old, right? I mean, John Robbins wrote a book, Healthy at 100, and just a couple decades ago, like in the 80s or 90s, he went and lived with cultures all around the world who were in their hundreds, and they were hiking up and down mountains, and they'd walk miles to get water, and they weren't complaining about knee pain. It's our culture. It's our culture. And so this isn't to be condemning to anybody, but it's to be motivating that it doesn't matter if your child is 2 and struggling or you're 102, you can choose to align yourself with how God designed you to live and cleanse these poisons out of your body. God's always available. I always say, we're designed to function at a high level in the spiritual realm in which God designed us if we choose Him in all things. And that's body, soul, and spirit. Body, soul, and spirit. We talk body, soul, and spirit, but we don't talk about the body a lot. So my favorite new scripture for that the Lord's highlighted is 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Read that one. See what's going to happen when Jesus returns. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Those who are ready for him will be fully prepared, body, soul, and spirit. So, if you are diagnosed with Hodgkin or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, what are you told by the medical system? Chemo. Right? We all know what chemo is. We don't have to get into chemo. It was designed for warfare. It's poison. It was never meant to go into the human body unless you're trying to hurt somebody, which is why it was designed for warfare. So it's not an answer to healing the body. So this is from the Mayo Clinic's website. I just looked up non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I picked the Mayo Clinic just because, everybody thinks the Mayo Clinic's the best hospital in the entire world. I've met so many sick people who have been in my office in this little town in the middle of nowhere who have been to the Mayo Clinic and everywhere else and had no answers to their health issues. It's because, for the most part, our medical system doesn't have answers to our health issues. They have amazing answers to emergency situations. It's so ironic to me how the American medical system is the best medical system in the entire world, and at the same time, the worst medical system in the entire world. Because it's the best system in the world at emergencies and saving people's lives, and it's the worst in treating sickness and disease, because they have no concept of how to do it outside of drugs, chemo, radiation, and surgery. It's really sad. So here's the options per the Mayo Clinic. Chemotherapy, radiation therapy, stem cell transplants, which do you guys know where most stem cells come from? Baby. Aborted human babies. Medications that enhance your immune system's ability to fight cancer. And it lists some of the medications. Medications that deliver radiation directly to the cells. And that's it. That's what's under treatment for lymphoma. What's interesting about it is the medical system will actually claim curing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Have you known anybody who had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, did chemotherapy, and were claimed to be cured? You heard that before? Okay. Because the cancer's in the lymphatic system, which is the system designed to remove toxins and waste in the body, I don't know how this is going to come out, but I'm just going to say it. If you're going to have cancer somewhere, you want it in your lymphatic system. That's the system the body designed to eliminate waste, including cancerous cells. You got cancer, in your other organs, direct connection to a blood supply, it's a lot more challenging to overcome. And so that's why they claim chemotherapy can cure non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, is because for most people with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, that cancer hasn't spread, it hasn't gotten out into the blood and gotten to the liver and the pancreas and the spleen and all these different organs, or thyroid or whatever. It's contained in the lymphatic system. So if a person's young enough and strong enough, you can poison their body with chemotherapy and it'll kill enough cancer cells, well, they'll claim a cure. But it's not a cure. I mean, you've just destroyed that person's immune system. You might have knocked back that cancer for a while, but if they don't change their lifestyle and they don't change their diet, why does cancer come back in people? Oh, I was cured, and then 1 year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later, it came back. Because that person was never taught how to care for their body, or where it came from in the first place, or how to live a healthy lifestyle so that they never have to have cancer. So it's not really a cure, but it's interesting that they'll claim it, and they'll say that that's the one, that chemotherapy, that they have the most success with. But that's why. It's because it's contained to the lymphatic system. Let's go on. I forgot something. I was so well prepared today, and I forgot to hook it up. But maybe we can. I might have Mike or somebody go get my computer on my desk. I actually took a bunch of pictures because I do iridology, and you can see this in the eyes. And I took pictures from like 5 or 6 different people of just some pictures people have come in, and I was going to show you the lymphatic congestion and toxicity that you can just clearly see crystal clear in the eye. And so if you look in the eye, you can catch these issues before they become problems. You can clean out your body before you develop sickness and disease. So, all right, so the largest concentration of lymph is around the gut. It's called GALT. That stands for gut-associated lymphatic tissue. GALT, gut-associated lymphatic tissue. Probably the most important section of lymph in your entire body, because the main way toxins and waste get into the human body and start to break down and destroy the human body is mainly through our mouth and what we eat. That's why what we eat actually matters. You can't just eat junk your whole life and get away with it. What you breathe in and smell, so what goes in your body goes through your gut and your digestion. And then the real brief definition of how your immune system works is your gut is like a castle wall. And it has soldiers on the wall to fight for you. And it only allows through the wall microscopic elements of nutrition that the human body needs. Vitamins, minerals, amino acids. We know the basics of what the human body needs. Everything else is trash. Take out the trash. Go poo-poo, right? Pee. That gets rid of the trash. When the gut breaks down, when digestion breaks down, and the first system when things get past the gut is this GALT, is this gut-associated lymphatic tissue. So God's a brilliant designer. This epidemic sickness and disease we're seeing today, it shows how far we've gone astray from God's design, because He's a brilliant designer that really designed us to be free of toxins and sickness and disease. And so then it gets into this gut-associated lymphatic tissue, and in here is our immune system. You got lymphocytes and all these white blood cells, and if something gets into that lymph that's not supposed to be there, it attacks it. So you got 2 major lines of defense that's designed to protect you from getting other toxins and waste and things that shouldn't be in your bloodstream into your bloodstream. But you get leaky gut, or you get a lymphatic system that becomes a backed up kind of toxic system that's not eliminating waste, and all of a sudden undigested food particles, you're sensitive to chemicals and smells and perfumes and cigarette smoke. Not that any stuff's good anyway, but you're hypersensitive to it. Or people got gluten allergies, other food allergies, dairy allergies, corn, nuts, soy, all the food allergies, the food sensitivities. It's because our guts and our lymph has been compromised to the point where now we're forcing an immune system response, because things that weren't designed to get deep into the body are now getting there. And so that's autoimmune diseases. Whether you have lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or any known autoimmune disease, if those antibodies are showing up in your bloodstream, there's things leaking through your gut and your lymphatic system into your blood. Now your blood's compromised. Okay, so there's an explanation for sickness and disease if you understand the mechanisms of how God designed the body to work. All right, so the flow of lymph fluid, it's a slow-moving system, fairly slow-moving system, especially compared to the blood. And it starts in the GALT, because you eat food, fats and other things have to travel through the lymph, and it goes up through the thoracic duct up here, up to the left side around the esophagus, and then back down the right side, and it kind of flows in this one-way pattern. And you have to breathe and you have to move for that lymph to be working. So ideally you sweat when you work out. Not sweating at all is a very, very bad situation to be in. I grew up not sweating very much. I think I thought I was cool because of it. I would go out, I'd play sports, and be like, I didn't even break a sweat. Like I was cool. No. I have major, major, deep lymphatic congestion. I mean, I would play 3 hours inside a racquetball court, this sport called volleyball. It's like volleyball off a racquetball court. Super intense. The guys I'm playing with, they're dripping, they're towels, they fall on the floor. There's such a big sweat spot we have to clean it up. I wouldn't sweat at all. That's not good. You know? So if your lymph's really congested, you don't sweat. If your lymph's not totally blocked, you can still be toxic and sweat profusely and have it stink horribly and like no deodorant on the planet works. You're still toxic. It's just, praise God, your lymph's open and it's somewhat working. So that's good. But it's a slow-moving system, and it moves through the entire body. But there are major valves, so to speak. There's major pockets of deeper lymph nodes. If you lose some of your lymph nodes, you've just cut out some of your highway. Again, it's rush hour, Los Angeles. Let's just take 4 lanes out. Not pretty. You know, you have breast cancer, you get your breast removed. You know, I understand that's a decision a lot of people have to make. My grandma made that decision. She's still here. She's 85. It's okay. But when you do surgery, you lose lymph nodes, especially breast surgery. So many women struggle after breast surgery with lymphedema and lymph swelling and all kinds of, just their lymphs congested, and they struggle with that because they already had obviously toxic backed up lymph. That's what breast cancer is. And now they've removed some of the lymphatic system, and the doctor has told them nothing about the importance of nutrition or cleansing or exercise or all of the things that they need to do to get healthy. You can still get healthy, but you have less highways to work with. It's like people get, have poor circulation and they get their veins clipped in their legs. Well, the blood finds another way to flow, but you have less highways. And you keep doing that, eventually your blood just starts pooling and you're in big trouble. I've seen that happen to people. So, the major pockets of lymph are around, like people know, almost everybody's experienced a swollen lymph node here, right? Everybody's had swollen lymph here. Under your armpits, and for women, their breast tissue is lymph. The gut-associated lymph tissue, the growing area around your growing, and right behind your knees. You know, I have a gal that I'm seeing that has a golf ball-sized lump behind her knee. She has lymph congestion. You know, it's not diagnosed, it's not cancer, it's not anything like that, but it's lymph congestion. We need to do something about it. This is the sewer system of the body. It doesn't develop lumps and bumps and cancer cells and all these things that we know are not of God's design unless that is backed up to the point where it's just sick and toxic and there's nowhere for the life to flow, right? God designed us rivers of life, right? There's rivers flowing out of the throne room, right? What did God do after He created the garden? He created rivers flowing out of the garden. And what did He do when He created us? He created rivers. And when you're formed in the womb, those rivers are formed hundreds of thousands of miles. And it's your blood and it's your lymph. And if those stay healthy, you stay healthy. And I might be oversimplifying it, but it's the truth. You can't underestimate how important the lymphatic system is. So when the lymph gets backed up, you get acidosis. You get waste and toxins backed up in the system. I mean, I've given this example 100 times, but it's accurate for this class, so I'll say it again. Water's not just water. Okay, your body's designed to be like the pristine glacier water at 10,000 feet flowing out of a mountain, not the stagnant pond down the street. I would not take my kids swimming in the green stagnant pond. We drive by and go, ew, right? But you have to visualize your body and understand that it's either flowing with life because those systems are working, or it's stagnant and accumulating waste and bacteria and fungus and mold and parasites. This stuff stays trapped in the body. I mean, I've had people do parasite cleanses and different cleanses who would never thought in a million years they have parasites, and they didn't believe what came out of them. So we have no, I don't know how, if any of us really have a concept, like I'm just starting to grasp the concept of the depth of the toxicity that can be in the human body. I mean, if you want me to give you an example to make it real for you, I'll make it real for you. I've done a lot of fasting in my day, done a lot of juice fasts and water fasts, and I'm pursuing the Lord, but I'm also pursuing health. And I'll never forget one time I did a juice fast, And I was going to go 40 days, and I broke it on day 29. But I did enemas during my juice fast. I was in my 30s, okay? I wasn't that old yet. I was in my 30s. I was juice fasting. Nothing but juice went in my body for 29 days. Every day I did an enema, sometimes 2 enema a day, and every day I had waste coming out of my body. And I have seen that to be true for person after person after person after person. I have a friend of mine, you look at him, he's fit, he's healthy, he's a fitness guy. He did a juice fast, he was doing enemas. It was like day 14 or 15, he's like, you would not believe what just came out of me. What just came out of you is sickness, disease, death. Just came out of you. You get sickness, disease, and death out of your body, you'll live. We allow that stuff to stay trapped in our bodies just because we don't have any understanding of it. So cleansing is huge. So you can really see this stuff in the eye. You know what? It might be kind of complicated for me to try to hook up the computer right now. So maybe we'll do it at the end. If anybody wants to stay, I'll show you some of that stuff at the end. I got the pictures of a few eyes where you can see kind of the lymph congestion in there. All right. So So I mentioned that. Lymph nodes. Swelling in certain nodes, usually attributed to a blockage or an infection. So when kids get sick, they get swollen lymph nodes. But here's what we don't understand. That's always a good sign. You know, if you go back to if you get a swollen lymph node, you take your kid to the doctor, he does an antibiotic, he comes home, everything's okay, right? You go back to the doctor because the lymph nodes are swollen again, you get an antibiotic, you come back. Finally, the next time you go to the doctor, doctor goes, let's just get those dang tonsils out of there. They're clearly a problem, right? I mean, they don't actually do that as much anymore. They've finally recognized in the medical community that, hey, the tonsils are important. Like, every body part God designed actually has intelligence beside it. Actually, like, has a purpose and value because God's way smarter than we are. So they don't do that so much anymore, praise God. But it's always a good sign when your lymph is swelling up. It's fighting. Your lymph is fighting, and that's a good thing. So your spleen is really important for your lymphatic system. It's part of your lymph. Your thymus is important because it's part of your lymphatic system. People get enlarged spleens, and they get their spleens removed. All right, so kind of already talked about that a little bit. Let's go on to, in case there's anything I missed. Yeah, let's go on to some of the things you can do, because that's kind of what's important, right? It's like, how do you clean up your lymph and get everything working right and all that fun stuff. Yeah, let's go here. So the key is reducing sludge and toxins and waste in your body. If you have actually been diagnosed with lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Actually, I didn't talk about the difference between them, but there's something in Hodgkin's lymphoma called, hold on, I got it right here. It's just kind of a funky name. Called Reed-Sternberg cells. They're large cancerous cells called Reed-Sternberg cells. That's what when they see that, they call that Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's named after the scientist who discovered it. But most people has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay? It's still cancer in the lymphocytes of the lymphatic system, but it doesn't have those particular ones. So just if anybody's curious about that, I didn't know that till I read it. If you've been diagnosed with something so serious, you better get serious about your health. I think everybody should be serious about their health, even if they're healthy. Because trust me, nobody's as healthy as they think they are. I know that just because for 4 or 5 generations we've been eating processed foods, and for like 100+ generations we've just been kind of going our own way as mankind, mostly absent from God's way. And so you can clearly see that in the eye. I mean, I can look at a 2-year-old's eye and see what all systems are compromised in their body. And it's hard for a parent to even believe that, because we have this false notion that children are born with a blank slate. No, you're born as a result of the choices of your generational history. But you're not subject to that if you don't choose to be. Some people have to work a lot harder than others because of their genetic history. They've been dealt a bad hand, so to speak. And that's just true. That's true for so many people. They've struggled since they were born with their health. So we have to get serious about cleaning up our bodies if we're going to clean out our lymphatic system. Because when you're trying to unclog thousands of miles of tubes and piping, it's just not like, one dose of herbs or 30-minute exercise program once a week. You really have to get serious. And I have to talk serious about it, because if people don't get serious about it, you know what's frustrating to me? I just have to share this with you, because our culture is so sick and full of disease, and we've believed in the mainstream medical system, and we found that there are not answers there, or very few answers there. People are dying prematurely. Very few people have died. Who's dying of old age these days? Okay, Esther's going to, at 147. But, people aren't dying of old age. They're dying prematurely of sickness and disease. And we've believed our medical system that their answers are right. And if I don't speak seriously about how important it is to cleanse and detoxify, people will go the natural route, and you know what they say? It didn't work. You know how long you've been sick and full of disease and abusing your body, and how toxic your body is before you go the natural route? And one of the reasons that kind of pains my heart is because that's saying the way God designed us and the things that God gave us don't work. And that could not be farther from the truth. I don't care what you're diagnosed with. I don't care if it's fourth stage cancer and you're told you have a week to live. God can and will heal you. But we don't see that happening. We see too many people around us falling, because we don't understand that we actually have to play a role. We actually have to take responsibility for our body and our lives and our health. We expect God just to do the miracle, and sometimes He does do a miracle. But I think the better miracle is when somebody chooses the path of God and goes through the suffering, the hardship, the long suffering of restoring their bodies back to the way God designed them in His image. If we were still a perfect reflection of God's image, we wouldn't be full of sickness and disease. It's a result of sin. We know that. As Christians, we know the truth of that it's a result of sin. But we don't look at our lifestyle and the foods we eat and the things we do and the choices we make as sin. We look at the 10 Commandments, a lot of us. A lot of us know better, but that's just the basics of the basics, right? So, all right, so where did I get off on a tangent there? So yeah, I'm just really encouraging you guys, you have to be serious. You have to be serious about cleansing and healing to get better. And that starts with diet. You cannot continue in the old ways of eating sugar and sweets and processed foods and chips and soda and all this man-made stuff. It's part of what's clogged up your river. Do you want to, how upset do we get when somebody throws trash in a beautiful mountain stream? But we throw trash in our bodies every single day. How upset do we get when an oil tanker erupts in the ocean and billions of gallons of oil destroys an ecosystem that God designed? We get ticked off about that. Yet we throw poison in our body every day and we don't think anything of it. And we're designed in the image of the living God. We are the tabernacle of the living God. And we don't think it matters. It matters. It doesn't mean being legalistic, but it means setting your heart to God. Show me, teach me, change me, heal me. So we can't continue the same old way of eating if we're going to be healthy, and if we're going to especially if we're going to reverse a toxicity condition in our body, sickness and disease in our body. We can't just go eat the healthy ice cream anymore, or the healthy bread, or I'm going to use coconut sugar because that's the healthy sugar. That's what we try to do. We still try to eat all the things we enjoy and that we like and do it in the quote-unquote healthy way. That's fine if you're in really awesome health. That's not fine if you're trying to get healthier or to reverse sickness and disease. You will not be successful in that. I just have to stress that. So there are programs out there that are great programs that I love. One is Body Ecology Diet. It takes away sugar, starches, carbs, dairy. She's big on acid-alkaline balance, eating fruits and vegetables. Well, she's a no-fruit diet because it's an anti-candida diet because people have yeast fungal issues in your body. I'm going to give you a couple of options and ways to talk about how to cleanse out your lymphatic system. And you can go kind of slowly into it, or you can get real serious about it. It's really up to you. I'll share another cool story with you. It'd be cool if she was here to tell her testimony, but she's not. But there's a gal I was working with, and she wore dark glasses because she was sensitive to the sun, and she had injuries in her body, and she was sensitive to all kinds of foods, and she could barely go out in public. She could barely function. She didn't like to be around people. It was really sad. She was a very young, beautiful, successful, talented girl. And we tried some things for her nerves and her nervous system, some minerals, and she's like, oh, that might have helped a little bit, whatever. She wasn't getting drastically better. I recommended her to do a lymph cleanse. That's what we're talking about today, the lymphatic system cleanse. She didn't call me and tell me. She showed up here at the store. And I was like, who are you? Like, I didn't even recognize her because the sunglasses were off, and she's like, hey, like, she was healed. Now, was she healed like 100% down to the cellular level, every single thing? No, but she was healed to the point where the glasses were off. She didn't have the food allergies and food sensitivities anymore. She had energy back. She didn't have to sit in her home all day, every day in a dark closet. And it was profound. And that was doing a lymphatic system cleanse, a 21-day lymph cleanse. Completely changed her life. And you know what she said happened? She said the Holy Spirit encountered her, and she was filled with the Spirit for 3 days. You don't think this stuff matters to God? You don't think He wants to heal us? You don't think He desires to go after those going after Him? You bet He does. You have to choose it. You can't choose the way of the world and expect to get better. You have to sacrifice. You have to choose life. And we're not choosing life. So, diet's crucial. And the best thing you can do, diet-wise, to cleanse your body and to heal your body, at the bare minimum, is fruits and vegetables if you're going to do a fast. But at the very least, you got to get the dairy out, all grains out, and all sugars out, except fruit. You got to get dairy, grains, and sugar out. Because they're congesting, they're clogging, they block up the lymph. Meat also blocks up the lymph. I'm not going to talk vegetarian, non-vegetarian. It's not about that. It's about how your body's working. And if your body can't process it and handle it, and all the acid waste building up in your lymphatic system, you got to stop eating tons of meat because your body can't handle it. It can't process it. And so at the very minimum, you got to get dairy out, grains out, sugars out. That means all the bread and the pasta and the pizza. And you can't try to do the healthy version of it. Now, again, I'm not saying being legalistic, but if you want to go have ice cream once a month, do it. Like, enjoy life. Like, this isn't meant to, like, put you in chains. It's meant to set you free. But you might get to the point where this is serious enough that you want to go hard after God, hard after healing, and you're just going to go for it. But if doing a piece of dark chocolate once a week or having ice cream with your family once a month keeps you on track, well, by all means, do it. Again, this isn't legalism. This isn't like a perfect plan. But you have to change things if you're going to heal your body and restore health in a clogged, congested, sick, toxic body. Does that make sense? Okay. So, if you want to fast, that's the best way to heal anything. It's the ultimate way to cleanse out and heal the lymphatic system. So, you can go raw fruits and vegetables and do huge strides in cleaning out your lymphatic system. You can do raw fruit and clean out your lymphatic system. There are people who have done what's called a grape cleanse or a grape fast and healed lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma after fasting on grapes for a month, or I think one guy was 56 days, another one was like 50 some days. I don't know where they came up with the number of days that they did it, but you can heal these issues by fasting. So you can fast on fruits and vegetables, you can fast on fruit only, you can fast on juice only. That is the way most people are going to heal their bodies. I could tell you story after story after story, but I had a friend who did a juice fast who'd done some kind of half-hearted cleansing before, but he'd never done a serious juice fast. And I think it was day 15 or 19 or something like that. He texted me, he's like, man, I feel like a teenager again. I can't believe how much energy I have. I'm still working out. Like, I had another gal who's in, she's in Minnesota. She'd never fasted before either. She did a juice fast. She was on day 11. And she said, Vaughn, I know this sounds crazy, but I wish I could never eat again. She goes, because I've never felt this good in my entire life. And I don't even want to eat again. Like, we don't even know what it feels like to feel good anymore because our bodies are so sick. And we continue to make them sicker by the foods that we eat. So juice fasting is extremely powerful. If you want to go deeper, water fasting. If you want to go deeper, dry fasting, which I'm not going to talk a lot about yet because it's not time for that. But the deeper you fast, the faster you cleanse. Anybody can get healthy. Anybody can choose to get well. Can you give up your comforts? Can you give up the pleasures of this world? Can you give up the foods that you've eaten and enjoyed your entire life? You know, my message isn't easy for a lot of people because it takes sacrifice. It takes choosing life. And I don't want people to take this and feel full of shame and condemnation because they can't do it. Because it's been a struggle for me. It's a struggle for my family. It's a struggle for the people I work with. It's a struggle. It's the human condition. But it's what God wants. Doesn't God want you to turn away from doing frivolous activities so that you can focus more on Him? I mean, who's given up, sports or, working too much or different things so that they could spend more time with God? Why does the Bible call us to fast? It's how you spend more time with God. I mean, think about and evaluate how much time you're preoccupied every day with food. What you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, going to eat, spending time to eat, going to the grocery store, making a list, making a recipe. We are preoccupied with food. I think of like Scripture all the time, and it's like, what did Jesus say about food? What did Jesus say about food? I am the bread of life. He said, my food is to do the will of my Father. When the disciples are like, well, did you get some food? He's like, no, my food is to do the will of my Father. The kingdom of God is not eating and drinking. And we could go down so many scriptures. It's not about food. We need a little bit to sustain ourselves. We need a little bit to survive and live. But we've eaten ourselves into this situation. Most of us have. You throw on pharmaceutical drugs and all the over-the-counter stuff and all the toxic therapies out there, it's just accelerated the process. But there's a reason Daniel fasted. To not eat the king's delicacies. They didn't have Doritos and Pop-Tarts back then. He still chose to fast, right? He still chose to honor God and to honor his body. So, diet's a huge deal. I just can't stress it enough. There's a lot of people that do the fruit-only thing for fasting. I caution against fruit-only. I've had myself and a lot of people don't do well on fruit-only. It's usually when people have a lot of infections in their body, a lot of candida, yeast, fungus, mold overgrowth. If you have those kind of issues or suspect you have those kind of issues, there's all kinds of strong herbs you can take to kill infections in the body. I'm actually going to go through a few of those with you. So you can do juice fasting without the fruit. And I've done that. I did a 40-day juice fast with no fruit. It was just juice, just green juices and lemon and ginger and that kind of stuff. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So you can do, I did a 40-day water fast. I mean, if you can do a 40-day water fast, you can certainly do a 40-day juice fast, right? We just don't think we can do these things because everybody thinks it's weird or wrong or dangerous, and it's like, it's biblical. You will encounter God when you fast. And that is just the truth of it. So fasting is crucial. Be cautious on overdoing straight fruit and fruit sugar, especially if you have infectious issues. So I just caution people on that. But in general, a raw fruit and vegetable diet will cleanse and heal people the fastest. That's kind of what a lot of us did in the summer. We did the summer detox challenge. We were doing a lot of cleansing. Now I'm in the winter and I'm doing some bone broths and some proteins and some other more building things. And I'll probably go back to doing some cleansing in the spring because people think I'm like super healthy or something. I am fighting just like every one of you. I am battling for my health. And cool. Okay, so this is a blue eye. And a blue eye, I should have shown you an eye of a blue eye that doesn't have all this white in there, but this white is all acidity and lymph congestion. Okay, so the first stage of lymph congestion is it starts to turn white, which is a sign of inflammation and a sign of acidity. And so this person has a white inflammation throughout their entire body. And this area where it's starting to brown is where it's a deeper congestion in the lymphatic system. And it's specific, this area is in their sinus cavity, right here. Because this top area is sinus and head. So, I mean, how many people get sinus congestion? Oh my gosh. Like, that's a struggle for people for years. This right here, these are called tophi, but I call them cotton balls. But this is the lymph zone, which is the 6th zone of the eye. And you see how those pockets of congestion all the way around that 6th zone. Because there's 7 zones in the eye, starting with digestion in the middle, stomach, intestines, blood, muscle, bone, and then lymph, and then skin is the outer zone. But that's congestion in the lymph zone specifically, and through the entire body. Okay, so that's not too much different. Same thing, the lymph, the white, the acidity, and again, all that white can lift off, and that can be just blue again. If their lymph gets cleaned out, the eye becomes blue without the white. Some people's eyes are so white that they might call it steel gray. And a lot of people think their eyes are hazel or green. There's no such thing. It's a blue eye full of congestion and toxicity. The only true brown eye is you have to be of a brown-eyed descent. Native American, Asian, African American, like you have to be of some dark-eyed descent. Okay? Our children both had brown eyes, and I'm like, Jen, I have no idea. Why would our children have brown eyes? And it was like a mystery, because they have true brown eyes. And it turns out that her father, who's from New York, back a few generations ago, mixed with some Native Americans. I don't think they really talked about it in the family. Recessive gene, we have brown-eyed kids. Pretty interesting. Okay, I'm going to show you a progressively worse one. Okay, this individual has a lot of the deep lymph congestion here, a lot of lymph congestion here around the collarette, which is the nervous system, and really bad stuff going on here in the head sinus area. And this actually right here is a sign of leaky gut. So their gut's damaged, and toxins and waste spill out into their body because of the toxicity in their bowels. And so it's starting to turn kind of orangish there. And that's, as the congestion, the toxicity gets deeper, it starts to turn more of a orangish, brownish color. That's my eye. So that's why I'm still working on my health. This is going to turn crystal blue again. Okay? You watch. Okay. Won't happen tomorrow. And what's funny is I was born with bright blue eyes. And now anybody, oh, well, sometimes they look green, sometimes they look blue. If you wear a green shirt, they look more green. If you wear a blue shirt, they look more blue. They're blue. I'm just full of gunk, right? All right. Progressively worse eye. Blue eye. A lot of deep lymph congestion. So this one's starting to worsen. This is somebody I know, and it's a young girl, a young teenage girl. That is some really nasty, deep lymph congestion in the gut-associated lymphatic tissue. This area right around the pupil is your stomach and your intestines. And so this person has some deep toxicity. If this person doesn't know about enemas and starts doing enemas, it will change their life. There's so much toxic waste built up right here around their intestines and that lymph around their gut. And so that's a big time colon cleanse waiting to happen right there. And lymph.
Can you see that with the naked eye of someone's eye, or you have to have it?
Absolutely, you can see that with the naked eye. Yeah. Yep.
What about it looks kind of warbly. Is that?
Which part?
The wavy lines coming out. Is that just?
These?
Yeah.
Those are actually all blood vessels.
Those are blood vessels.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you can see everything in the human eye, because the entire eye is connected to the nervous system of the body, and these are all blood vessels running through here. And so if they're tight together, it's a strong eye. As they start to get weaker or spread apart, it's a sign of a weakening of the organ, like here. That's called a rarefication, where it starts to spread apart, that organ's starting to get weak. If it's white and raised, it's called a transversal. If it goes across and it's white raised, it's inflamed. I don't see a lot of transversals in this eye, but you can tell you can find things in everything going on in here. It's pretty interesting. And then the last one I'm going to show you is that one. That's another blue eye. So I'm kind of showing you progressively worse conditions. And this was a guy who's battled his health his whole life. He's had appendix and gallbladder and all kinds of organs removed, tons of food sensitivities. And who has ever told him or taught him that he needs to cleanse his body? And people suffer that he has children. Okay, this is the criminalness, if that's a word, of our medical system. Not helping people to get well, giving them drugs when they have families. So that's a really toxic, congested, backed up body. And he was probably mostly born that way. But we can undo it. We can undo it. We have to choose it. So, all right, well, hope that was fun.